So on your back side, you choose leg position, you choose arm position as always. And you also choose whether you want to be still or whether you want to be moving, or if you want to be petting, as most folks have fur animals, fur babies. But whatever position that you do find yourself in, try to come to it with as much ease as possible. And by ease, I don't mean you're like a blob on the floor and no muscles are contracting. What I mean by ease is that it doesn't feel overly strenuous for any reason. So the position you're in should feel accessible to your air, to your breathing. You should have plenty of space and room. If you're stretched out a certain way, maybe you feel like you have extra. Ease could also mean that if you're holding tension, you already know that you're holding tension in some place of your body. You might try physically massaging that spot, pressing lightly into it. You might try talking to that area, asking it to find your language here, to calm, to relax, to soften. You might know what words work more significantly for you. And ease could also mean that you are starting to melt away all of the exterior thoughts. They don't disappear, they don't magically go away, problems don't get solved. But you can set them aside, you can put a pin in them, you can recognize their weight, and then let it go for a moment. And as you're finding your softness, as you're finding your ease, maybe you also find your breath along the way. Recognizing that your inhales and exhales can help smooth the edges. Can bring a sense of safety or security to your nervous system. And if you need a little distractor, breath can be a really great place to start, to just focus in, take your microscope to it, and start to let a lot of the other thoughts and emotions on your mind disappear into the background. Sit with your breath for just a little longer, whether you're moving or finding your stillness. And this next bit is a little, this next bit's optional. You can stay with whatever pace that you're breathing with right now, or you can take a couple of deeper inhales and exhales with me. So you're gonna go in through the nose, filling up as much as you can. Hold briefly, and then on your exhale, take a sigh. And then once more, inhale. Filling it up. Pausing at the top and then a sigh out the mouth. And then a third round, your go. You take your time, filling up as much as you need and want, pausing for as long as you'd like. And then when you feel that urge to let it go, blow off a little extra steam, make a noise or a sigh, or just let the breath make sound for you. Wherever your arms are at, go ahead and bring them to your side with the palms up. And wherever they're at, if they're downward more like a V or side out like a T or up overhead, you're going to gently press the backs of your arms and palms into the ground. And you can hold that pressing down for a moment or two. And then soften, let the arms drape on the ground again. You're just lying there on the floor. And then press the backs of your arms and palms into the ground a second time. Maybe you use a little bit more force or maybe the same amount of force. And then soften, let them lie. We're going to press one more time all the way down into the floor as if we're trying to rise up with our arms. And then let go of that press as well. Choose another position for your arms to be in. So long overhead or to a T or down like a V or an A, depending on how your brain works. Option obviously to keep them exactly where they're at, but take 3 more presses into the ground. So you might want to pulse longer, or you might want to pulse faster into your pressing down and then your resting. You might take a similar 3 press routine, or if you're going a little faster, you might get a couple extra in. If you're holding for the endurance because it feels amazing for the shoulders, then you might just get 1 in or 2 in. Choose one more place for your arms to lie, or you can go back to where you originally were or stay where you're at. And then again, take a couple of presses downward into the floor. Start to let some of those back muscles engage. Maybe you feel an opening in the chest or down the sides. Depending on where your arms are, you'll feel your body light up in different ways. And then rest, relax the arms, and you're gonna reach the arms straight overhead and they'll be laying on the ground. And then you're gonna sweep the arms, fingertips towards the ceiling, and then they'll rest at your sides. So you're just gonna bring the arms up and overhead, like you're doing a double high five with somebody, and then the arms come back to your sides. And you can either make this a big sweeping motion like you're a snow angel, or you can make this a direct reaching fingertips towards the ceiling like a zombie and then reaching the arms straight up. You might kind of flip-flop in between them. You might feel like you're circling around. Bring in a little motion to the shoulder girdle here. Option to stop along the way if any spot feels interesting enough to explore. And then next we're going to bring the hands and point the fingers up towards the sky. So as if you were pointing up towards the ceiling, wherever you're at. Yeah, there you go. And then imagine that you've pinned your right shoulder down to the floor and you're going to reach through your fingertips with the left fingers, the left arm, and that shoulder blade will come up just a little bit. You might feel the blade slide from behind you and around you. And then you'll switch, you'll let that left shoulder rest down, and then you'll give an extra extension to the fingers and arms with the right shoulder. Shoulder blade sweeps behind you and up. And then repeat a left and a right. You get a moment to pause and hold before you switch. And then we'll do a third round. We get a chance to let that shoulder blade move, the arm. You'll switch to your second right side. And then rest your shoulder blade down. Cross your arms over your chest like you're trying to scratch the back sides of your shoulders. And see if you can wiggle a little bit so that your palms kind of tuck underneath you, like you're giving yourself the deepest hug possible. And now feel the shoulder blades sort of reach apart, get a little stretch between them. You might even grip the palms at your backside for a little more of an active stretch there instead of just crossing them over. And then just to make it fair, we're going to take our crossing of our arms and cross the arms the other way. So if left was on top, then right goes on top, or yeah, there you go. And give yourself a second hug. How many times do you get to hug yourself in the day, right? You'll let that loving hug go. You'll bring your arms to your sides at some direction, maybe a T or down like a V. And then you'll bring your knees in towards your chest. You can rock and roll. You can grab onto wherever it feels necessary. You might take an early happy baby where feet go up towards the sky and you get a rock and a roll. You could be long-legged or stay with that knees bent. And if you get a chance to wiggle into the ankles and the toes, you could be spreading the toes and squeezing them. You could be rolling the ankles all the way around in both directions. You could be pointing your toes and then also drawing the toes back towards you. Maybe get a chance to squeeze whatever you're holding onto with your hands, like a little self-massage. And then bringing your feet back down to your mat, knees bent. And we'll take a couple of bridge poses here. So for your first couple of bridges, just decide I'm gonna go up and hold, or I'm gonna go up and down. And I always say work with a small bridge first, a short bridge, so not your tallest, deepest bridge. You can always work up to your biggest back bend after a couple of rounds, but start little. Just bring your hips up towards the sky a little. Maybe enjoy that it doesn't have to feel like the biggest stretch. And as you build into your bridges, you can make them soft and easy by lifting just a few inches off the ground. Or if today's the day you want to feel a little bit more for your hind quarters, you might dig the heels into the mat as if you're trying to draw them back towards your head. You could lift the toes off your mat, come onto your heels. You can even just give an extra squeeze through your backside when you come up into any height of a bridge. Just add a little more glute action, or imagine your hamstrings are pulling. Allow your calves to work a little bit more. And if you're going with soft, short little lifts, you do you. Find one or two more bridges or movements. And start to think about how you want to end up in a seat. Today a rock and roll kind of day until you end up on your bottom? Is today I'm rolling onto my side and I'm going to take a moment before coming upright? Once you get to your seat, there's no rush if you're still on your backside. We're just going to wiggle into the shoulders a little bit, move the head and neck around. For some people, necks and shoulders can be a very sacred area. It might be that place that gets the stress first, or it might be the place that we've had previous issues with. So just spend a moment being grateful for what is functioning fully in your neck and in your shoulders right now. Instead of thinking about, I feel that little sticky spot, or I'm stiff here. Just notice what's functioning well for a moment. You can turn your head, you can look up and down. You can still say yes and no. Find your way from these wiggles onto your hands and knees in a tabletop position. And we're going to start with a shift forward and back. So when you come forward, it can be just like a straight tabletop position, or it can be more of a plank. It could be more of like a push-up. And then on your back side, when you shift back, you can come fully into more like a child's pose, bottom all the way to heels. It can be forearms down with more support. And you choose the pace. So if being on the back end longer is where you need to be right now, then spend your time there. And if you want to be more full of movement, then choose your pace, increase it. You can add anything in on either end. You could be even just staying in your tabletop cat and cowing, wiggling your tail. These are pretty organic movements, and I know that you can fine tune what the body is asking. These are all beautiful choices. We're going to come back to our tabletop. And we're going to allow our right knee to come forward for a low lunge. So right knee steps forward, right foot steps forward, left leg is back in a low lunge. Yep. And we're going to take either a palm stack or a lace of the hands, and then it's going to go behind the head. And if you notice that as soon as you put your arms up, your ribs sort of flipped and flared up and you got that little back bend going on, try to tuck the ribs for a moment so that whatever movement we're moving in our shoulders, it's actually coming from our shoulders. And we're not borrowing a little bit of movement from our rib cage there. So once you get that more length from tailbone to top of head, then you're going to work your elbows behind you, pulling them back a ways. Yeah, it could be just a little bit of a pull behind you. And then you'll soften, let the palms sort of cradle the head, the forearms come closer to the sides of the head. Yep. And then 2 more rounds. Keeping long to the spine, ribs stay down, pull open. Yes. Soften again. And then open up one more time. You can stay with that elbows behind head. Maybe you release them and go to more like a cactus-like position. Just something different. And then palms can come to frame that front foot. And a couple of choices here, depending on how your hips are feeling today and what they need. You might sink deeper into your lunge. You might tuck that front left leg underneath you for more like a pigeon pose, outer hip stretch. You might stay upright if this is not feeling like your hips are enjoying your palms down on the ground. You can still actively move. Even if you're upright, you don't have to have palms down on the floor. You can sit back, get a stretch for the back of your legs. You can move freely between all of these options. And this is a very forward and back motion to make here for our hips for the most part. And sometimes I feel like the outer hip gets neglected a little, so if you get a chance, throw that in there too. We're just going to take another moment before we unfortunately have to switch our legs. So you'll come to your tabletop, you'll reset for a moment. You'll find a way to step the right foot forward, right foot forward into the opposite lunge, knee down. And then take a moment, just upright. Palms are facing forward and your fingertips are pointing down towards the floor. You're sort of in A shape with the arms. And then as if you're trying to reach the fingers all the way down to the floor, try to pull your shoulder blades down away from the ears. And then as if there were a wall behind you, press the backs of your hands slightly into that wall. When you're satisfied with this shoulder activity, you'll take your palms to the mat to frame your foot. And then you'll take your same freedom for your second side, for your second hip. This might feel joyful for all the bones and tissue. It might feel like the good kind of work. Or it might be a struggle, but it's all valid, whatever experience you're having. We'll spend just another moment here, shifting, moving. Start to think about what position you want to end your practice in. Start to find a way back to your table, or maybe toss in an extra back bend on your belly or a down dog. Something is calling to you, some specific body part. Can you find a way to honor that space and give it a chance to stretch or to engage, perhaps to lengthen or to be still? Everybody's got that one spot, that go-to. As we start to close it down, it's your practice, it's your mat time. So that doesn't mean that you have to stop moving just because we're starting to slow it down and settle into a rest. If you're ready for your rest, this was enough movement for you, then head on into a peaceful place. But if it wasn't enough, then you're welcome to keep shifting, reaching, grabbing, twisting. I'm honored every week that you all come to your mat with me, that you share this time, and that I get to guide you, and that even though it doesn't maybe feel like it or seem like it, I see you, and every week you guide yourself more and more, listening more intently to the movements that you know intuitively that you should be making. And that is an honor to see. Thank you for sharing your time, your energy. Happy holidays to everyone, and I will see you all very soon. Namaste.